Hey guys, this is Afro Otaku, and it's certainly been a while, so it only makes sense to make an update vid. Man, is this decade not off to a great start. To the point that it's no longer funny. 2020 set the bar so high in terms of horrible years in my life that I doubt any future year of awfulness will top it. And despite my wishes last time, truth be told, I went into 2021 knowing it wouldn't be all that great. Since everything that made 2020 so horrendously horrible would be carried over to said year. And to my not surprise, they were. So much so that it might as well have just been 2020 Part 2. It was objectively better in some areas, and objectively worse in so many others. We still had COVID to deal with, we still had to do most things indoors, we still had to wear masks and social distance in most places, even with the lockdown lifted. And I'm still going through my worst case of depression to date. Well, I can safely say that I finally finished college and got that certificate. By God, was the home stretch a true nightmare. At first, it seemed like I would only have one more class, only for that to not be available until spring 2020, right as the lockdown began, resulting in the courses going online, which sounded fine at first, but ended up being a living hell. Especially for tutoring, with the hours and communication becoming a complete joke, and Maya 3D. Good lord, Maya 3D. That is by far a class that should never be taught or learned online at home. But I took it as part of another certificate I learned about that I thought I could get as well. But with me struggling to deal with everything going online, and having to be set incomplete and turning my spring work in the fall, just made it not worth it. Especially since the result of its creation led to a shuffling of all the different classes, as it turns out there was another class I had to take before getting it, due to the rearranging for the sake of another stupid certificate, meaning I never completed it. But one teacher was really nice enough to make it so I could get the certificate without taking any more classes. I'll give it that. Safe to say, this made my time at college such an emotionally draining experience that made me hate every minute of it. But I can say with confidence that it wasn't always like that, as 2017 through spring 2019 was practically the renaissance of my art schooling. My drawing skills got better, as did my grades. I had professors I really liked, and they really liked me. Their guidance was the best anyone could ask for, and there were even classmates that made the experience even better, resulting in plenty of happy memories. Granted, it wasn't without its stressful points. Hell, I flunked and had to retake my Dart intro class. But in hindsight, they really weren't enough to completely ruin it for me. This was a very special time where art school was a fun, rewarding experience. But that just couldn't last. Thanks to one shitty professor and COVID sending everything straight to hell. At the very least, I was hoping 2022 would be off to a mostly decent start, and at first it was. Going up to Carmel to see an old family friend, it was a good time. But by the last day, we all got sick, with 3 of us, myself included, testing positive for COVID. Because of course that happens. We're all better now, though I'll admit at one point, I was disappointed by that. For these dark times really made me think, at one point, The 2020s did seem like it would be a big decade for me. I would finally finish college, start working, dive deeper into my creative works, and hopefully get the next big chapter of my life started, the way I planned it. And, in many ways, the past 2 years have definitely been big for me. But in all the wrong ways. It made me feel how things rarely go my way, with these college folk making choices that seem to indirectly screw me over. And how that may not be the issue, but more of how I seem to deal with my emotions so horrendously. Getting so stressed when times are tough and having a downward spiral because of it. Or worse, the stress and anger leads you to dig up an old demon and bring back something that was better off buried and forgotten. I have this awful habit that when I'm in a bad mood, someone has to be dragged down with me. I lash out at them unexpectedly, and even when they try to cheer me up, I'm too caught up with my stress to really take it to heart. Even worse, sometimes the reason is so petty and minor that acting that way was completely unnecessary. Or I find things about my friends that annoy me when I shouldn't feel that way. But I do anyway. Or heck, maybe there were times where you weren't trying to upset them, but you still do something stupid enough to make them really mad at you. And they reach a point where they can't bear you anymore. This has been a major flaw of mine for ages. It isn't even the first case where the stresses of real life caused me to blow up at a colleague, resulting in some connections I had going south. But when it's happened with your closest, most strongest relationship, that's when you feel really destroyed. Again, not a new demon, but no thanks to COVID, it cranked up to 12 and reached a breaking point. The worst thing about the aftermath is that you're left with nothing but remorse and wonders of how things would have turned out if you handled those moments differently. Though even if you could, it's not like things would have been different. You could have always been an awesome dude with no drama to give. And it wouldn't matter. There were still major things about the person that you couldn't control or even knew about until after shit hit the fan. It was an outcome that was gonna happen anyway. You just sped up the process without even knowing it, killing any chance of reconciliation. This person you were once so close with and talked to every day suddenly changes at your expense, and you haven't talked to them in such a long time, wondering if there'll ever come a time where you can hear from them again. And this isn't even the only case of a strained relationship. Say there's this other friend the two of you shared, someone you befriended a year prior to this other one, a friend that both of you share the same admiration with. And that's how you found each other. You even played a part in both of them becoming friends, resulting in a little group. You were even family to each other. You shared both good and bad times. They comforted you and you would do the same. There was even a time where you got to see both of them physically for a few weeks, making memories you thought you would cherish forever, and would always be a group. But then this fallout happened between two of you, and it puts a rift between you and the other one. Not that this friend would blow you off, he could even be willing to still be friends with you, but you start feeling a little awkward around him. You may still like him, But sometimes when he messages to check up on you, you're not really glad to hear from him. You just feel kind of sad. It's even worse when he brings up an event that was originally planned for 2020, but kept getting pushed back for obvious reasons. That being him coming down to visit you. But you just don't feel hyped for it anymore. What used to sound exciting, you've become so indifferent to that if it does happen or not, you no longer care. That's pretty much how I've been feeling for quite a while now. Not being on speaking terms with one person and talking to another less. Sometimes intentionally. And it's not like these two are the only examples. I think about a lot of my other online friends I made in the early 2010s. I haven't even heard from most of them in years. Hell, this year will mark half a decade since I last spoke to one of them, and even longer for others. But I guess that's just a pattern in life. You form bonds with people you think are always gonna be there, but for some reason or another, you just stop hearing from them. It seems like they can only be in your life for a certain period of time, and not for as long as you want them to. And you can only wonder if you'll ever reconnect with them again, or, in my case, if I even want to reconnect with them someday. Because with all that's happened, what are they gonna say? Then there are other things that I think about. Like the shows that brought you together, interests that you shared with this person, and your love for them got even better when you shared it with them. Or there were titles that they suggested to you, and you ended up loving some of them. Can you really still enjoy them, even if they make you think of the person you drifted apart from? Or how about characters that may have taken some inspiration from him or her? Are you holding on to the past just by keeping them in the projects you're working on? Or how about friends that both of you share, and you still talk to some of them? There are times where I'm told to just move on, but can these factors I've mentioned make it hard or even impossible to do so? If I were to scrap them or not, I would feel awful either way. I honestly don't know why I'm like this. Why do I hurt the people I care about so much, after all they've done for me? Is it because of my severe insecurities? My autism? A chemical? Past trauma? My dad's quirks rubbing off on me? All of the above? I would kill for an answer and a way to make it all go away at the snap of a finger. But this is reality we're talking about here. Coupled with the fact that I have the hardest time trying to change my ways, I really do feel like such a lost cause. And I'm not just talking about my attitude. I also feel like I have the worst luck with getting employment. The farthest I gotten was an interview, but I either get rejected or never hear back from them. And the places that would accept me always have one thing about it that just kills the experience. Heck, I'm currently in this job training program, and for a while I felt like I was the highest functioning guy in the group, and having to do daily activities that quickly became repetitive. I just don't get why gaining my own independence has to be such a slow, tedious burn, while others manage to do so in what seems like half the time. It's either me or our economy being so fucked. Then again, I can't recall a time where it wasn't fucked. I really do feel like a loser. Maybe not a Christian loser, but The fact that I can't seem to get a job in a snap and have to go through what seems like the slowest snail's pace possible. And that's probably because I have a lot holding me back. My depression, me holding on to past things that shouldn't be held on to, not being able to keep my anger inside, not taking advice to heart, the fact I can't drive yet, etc. I sometimes can't go to sleep with the thought that there's so much bad inside me. And believe me, I hate feeling this way. I hate being this perpetual downer that would make everyone around me down as well. Especially when I have my folks get on my case for it. But when everything with your personal life and life in general being so overwhelmingly bleak for the past 2 years, it's hard to feel any way other than jaded and numb. I'm always told that things will get better eventually, and they can, just not in the way I would like it to. And as nice as it sounds, I don't think the world's ever gonna get better. Things could improve, but they'll never truly be better. And the recent activity with Russia and Ukraine just seems to prove my point. Another war becoming a possibility before this pandemic can be finally behind us. Which in theory should be the best thing ever. And yet, there's a weird, sad part of me that's scared of it ending. For all the trouble it's caused, it's also preventing me from doing one thing I'm just too afraid to do. And when it's all over, I'll no longer have that excuse. But just for the sake of it, let's go over positives. I'm getting out of the house. I'm slowly starting to like the group I'm in, namely my instructors and some of my classmates. Not all of them, but a decent amount. The break times are giving me a good outlet to catch up with my drawing. It may not be perfect, but it's giving me things I do technically need right now. And I have some ideas where I could work. And if this damn program's really my best shot, so be it. But the sooner I get it done, the better. As of right now, I'm gonna continue writing my book, Master Filmora and Hit Film Express more, continue to draw and develop my comic, and hopefully down the line, I'll be a working man that's one step closer to getting his career started. As well as being in a better place mentally. Provided World War III doesn't actually happen. I'm not gonna bother asking, but what about you guys? Because really, things for you are most likely the same with me. And I act like I have a huge interactive audience when people barely comment on my videos. And this site's becoming more and more of a joke, so why do I even bother? This is Afro Otaku, and stay safe, wear a mask if you still have to, and I wish time could just slow down. Bye.